You ever been jamming out to the radio, not really paying attention, and all of a sudden, oh shit! Today, let's talk about situational awareness. Situational awareness, what is it? In its very simplest form, it is paying attention to your surroundings. Whether you're driving, whether you're walking in a mall, whether you're walking down the street. That's all it is. Pay attention to your surroundings. Now, most people, especially nowadays, do not do that. Why? Because they have cell phones. And cell phones are way more attractive than looking where you're going. We've all seen the videos of the person that's staring at their phone and they walk into a glass door or a pole or something like that. And they're hilarious. But what does it mean? It means that they have zero situational awareness. In the last video, I mentioned that you need to trust your gut. This goes with this as well. Have you ever been in a situation, walking or driving or something just didn't feel right? Something felt weird? Felt maybe somebody was following you, or maybe somebody was staring at you. You get the butterflies in your gut. Again, that's just the body telling you, hey man, something might be about to happen. So what do? Well, you can look for those pre-contact clues, right? If I'm walking around and I see some dude he's got a hoodie on and it's kind of pulled over his face. I mean, nowadays we all have masks on, so it's kind of hard to tell. But he's hiding his face. He's kind of doing what you call the perp scan. He's looking around like this, but slowly he's creeping towards you. That might be an indicator. That might be an indicator that this dude is up to no good. So what can you do about something like that? Well, there's a few things. In the contracting world, we always said look at their hands, right? Because where is somebody going to have a weapon? They're probably not going to have it in their teeth. They're probably going to have it in their hands, whether it be a knife, a gun, or a stick, whatever. They're probably going to have it in their hands. So you always scan for the hands. Another place to look is their waistline, because if they do have a gun, more than likely it's going to be on their waistline. And if they're criminals, more than likely they're going to carry an appendix, or like in their pocket. Criminals, generally speaking, don't pay very much money for holsters or training, so they're probably going to put it right in their belt line. That way they can take it out real easy. Now, what else can we look for? Well, we can look for oddities, okay? If you are in a parking lot, let's say in a very upscale neighborhood, you're in a parking lot in Target. You're looking around and you see a kind of a junker, shitty car, and there's, two sketchy dudes in there. That might be a clue. That might be a clue that these dudes are up to no good. Now, it doesn't always mean that. It just could mean that this kid's 16 and he bought his own car and he's going to fix it up, and that's all that he had money for, and that's fine. But it's always best to err on the side of caution, right? So, as somebody who's going to be self-reliant, what can you do about it? Well, what you don't want to do is you don't want to let them see if you have a gun, right? You don't want to immediately pull your gun out. You don't want to brandish it. You don't want to keep touching it, because if you keep touching it, they're going to look down. You don't want to, the element of surprise is always on your side if you see it first. So sometimes it's best just to kind of let things go and see how they play out. Other times it's best to be overt, right? Sometimes if somebody's following me, I might just stop, pull out my phone, pretend I'm looking at it, and see if that person walks by, right? Maybe they do walk by. Maybe I'll stop, I'll put my back against the wall and kind of look at my phone like I just got a message or something. Or maybe they might walk right by. Maybe they won't. If they don't walk right by, that's a good indicator they're probably following you, right? Another thing you can do is, I've done this before. I think we were in New Orleans and we were walking down and I just had that feeling some sketchy dude was checking me out. So I just stopped and turned around and stared right at him. Usually, if you do that, it kind of catches them off guard and they're like, what the fuck? and they kind of move about and go about their day and leave you alone, right? Another thing that you got to remember is people, especially bad guys or bandits or whatever you want to call them, they always look for the easy prey, right? You never see a shark trying to really eat another shark, right? Why? Because that other shark's probably going to fight him. So if you see a bad guy and you look like easy prey, he's probably going to tend to attack you more than somebody else. You see another guy who's 6 foot tall, 200 and whatever pounds, he's got cauliflower ear, he's all tatted up. Man, that dude might be able to handle himself. So more than likely, bad guy's probably not going to mess with him. Okay? I'm not saying go out and get a bunch of tattoos, but what I'm saying is don't make yourself an easy target. Okay, so on the lines of not making yourself an easy target, let's talk about those guys who, and we probably all know who they are, those guys who go out to a restaurant, they're like, I gotta have my back to the wall. I gotta be able to buy an exit. I want to see everything that's going on. That same guy pounds 3 huge beers and eats 4 pieces of cheesecake at the same time, right? So he's probably not the guy I'd listen to. I heard one guy say at one time, put it very well spoken. He said, listen, man, if you got to be the guy that always has to have your back to the wall and always have to sit by an exit, you're probably not all that comfortable in your own skills, right? Because the fact of the matter is, you're not always going to have your back to the wall. You're not always going to be by an exit. You're not always going to be in the perfect vantage point for you and your situation and your skills. It just doesn't happen that way. Now, I'm not saying that if the situation is okay that you can't do that. By all means you can, but can you imagine this? What if everybody in whatever, pick a restaurant, Texas Roadhouse, right? What if everybody in there just had their backs to the wall and nobody was sitting in the middle and they all just cuddled up by the exits? Like, what the hell would that look like? So you got to be comfortable in every situation, okay? You got to be able to sit in the middle of the room and still be able to look around. You got to be able to kind of, assess your own situation from your own vantage point, whatever that may be. Now remember, situational awareness is not just all about looking for bad guys. It's also looking for good guys, right? So if we go to a Walmart parking lot, let's say, we're walking around, and maybe we notice a couple sketchy vehicles here and there because, let's be honest, it's Walmart. But also, you might walk around and find a couple NRA stickers, a couple, Glock stickers or SIG or pick your gun, right? Those dudes, they may just be peacocking, but also they may be your ally. They may be the guy that if something does happen, they may be the one that comes to your aid, right? So you can't always just look for bad guys. You also have to look for good guys, and good guys are the oddity as well. You could pick that dude. You could pick the dude who's wearing 511s, tactical shoes, a flannel shirt or a Hawaiian shirt with M-frame Oakleys, with, the every military tattoo you can think of, and he's got an infidel hat on and all this. You can spot that dude from a mile away, right? But more than likely, hopefully, that dude is going to be your friend. That dude's going to come to your aid if and when you need him. So when you're looking for people, you're looking for the oddities, you're looking for the good guys, all that stuff. What are you actually doing? Well, again, to put it in very simple terms, you're just profiling. I know that is a very bad word in today's society, but who gives a fuck? That's what you're doing. You're profiling people. You're looking at somebody and you're making a judgment on them based upon the way they look, what they're wearing, what they're driving, the neighborhood they're in, all that stuff, right? Now, you may not always be correct. You may be wrong, and that's okay. But you're still doing it. And you know what? You can save your life by doing that. You can look at somebody and just your gut instinct tells you, hey, something doesn't feel right. And that's profiling. Plain as day, very easy, right? And that's what you're going to do. Now, if you happen to have yourself, or find yourself, in a bad situation, right, to where you're like, oh shit, I have to do something. Well, the best thing to do is to avoid being in that situation, right? The best you can. If you're driving and somebody's got a little road rage, he's tailgating you, whatever, dude, don't pull to a stop, because that means he's probably going to stop too and get out. But you can slow down. You can let the guy pass you, right? If you don't want to get in an altercation. There's a lot of things that you can do to avoid things. And one thing that you should always do is always leave yourself an out, okay? What that means is when you pull up, let's say that road rage situation, a guy's following you, super pissed off because you're driving like shit or whatever, you stop at a red light, okay? There's a few vehicles in front of you, and this guy, you're in your mind, you're like, dude, this guy's gonna get out and he's gonna bash my window in, whatever. So what do? You always leave yourself an out. Don't stop in the middle lane. Always stop on the outside lanes if possible. And then don't pull up right next to the car in front of you, right? You want to be able to maneuver around that vehicle if you need to. So what do? Well, a good rule of thumb, this does not work for every vehicle. If you stop and put where their tires meet the road, right on the edge of your hood, right? If you stop about that far, which is usually about half a car length away, that is a really good distance to where you can maneuver around. Most cars, you can just turn your wheel and go right around them. Again, does not work for all vehicles, but it does for a lot. Same goes if you're walking. Same goes, if you're in a crowded area. Always leave yourself an out. Don't put yourself in a situation to where you're stuck. If you do, and old boy is mad at you, old boy does want to jump out of the red light, you're gonna be in a bad situation, and you're gonna be put in a situation where you have to defend yourself with some sort of either physical violence or something else. And let's be honest, that's really the last thing we want to do. I would much rather avoid a fight than have to get into a fight, because I know if I do get into a fight, people are going to get hurt and people are going to get in trouble. And nobody really wants that. There are two things, generally speaking, that most, if not all, instructors associate with being situationally aware or what to do in certain situations. One is the Cooper color code, and number two is what they refer to as the OODA loop. All right, Cooper color code is white, yellow, orange, red, and black. White meaning I'm at home, I'm chilling, I'm getting ready to go to sleep, I'm completely kind of checked out. I'm not situationally aware at all. Yellow meaning, hey, I'm still chilled out, but maybe I'm driving. My head's not on a swivel all the time, but I'm aware of what's going on around me, which is what you're gonna be in, generally speaking. Orange means, hey, I see something, I'm mentally preparing, I'm getting ready to react to whatever I saw. And maybe it's a car wreck, maybe it's somebody trying to, follow you, something like that. Red means you are taking action right now. You are in the fight. You are actively doing something. Black, which is generally referred to as nobody wants to go there, is when you see black, or when you are completely kind of zoned out, but you're focusing on the wrong stuff. You're completely focusing on one target. You don't see anything else going on around you. What that usually means is, if you're fighting one dude and you got him on the ground and you're kind of giving it to him, but you don't see his three friends show up. Something like that. So you don't always want to be in white, you don't always want to be in black. You, generally speaking, want to stay around the yellow stage. The other thing is the OODA loop. Colonel Boyd invented this when he was a pilot. OODA, O-O-D-A, the OODA loop, because it's in a circle, stands for observe, orientate, decide, act. Okay? You observe something going on, you orientate yourself towards that, you decide what you're going to do, and you're going to act upon it. Pretty simple. Both things are referred in the military all the time. The military uses them a lot. Police use them. Most people that play with guns and are the sheepdogs, they are the ones that use this a lot. You can use it too in your everyday life, you know. I just went into Walmart, not too worried about what's going on, especially where I live. Not too many radical crazy people over here. So in Walmart, what do? You're not going to be white because there's still people around. Something still could happen, but you're going to stay in the yellow. You know, you're going to get your groceries, get whatever you need, but you're also going to be kind of looking around. You're going to be looking to see if there's any shady dudes. I mean, right in Boulder, a guy went up there and went to a grocery store and started shooting people. So, I mean, things can happen. So, just a little tidbit of what most instructors kind of put in their situational awareness classes. So in the contracting world, we have things we call high vis and low vis, right? So low vis, if you go on a low vis operation, you are trying to camouflage yourself to where people don't glance at you and be like, oh, look, American. Now, granted, it's a little hard when you have a bunch of 6'2", 250-pound contractors with beards and everything's tatted up, and they have, you know, the tactical watch and all that shit. It's kind of hard, but we did it, and we did it all the time. Now, on the opposite spectrum, you have high vis. High vis is where we overtly let people know that, yes, we are Americans. We will wear our armor. We're wearing a big American flag. We're wearing our guns. We are in a most likely an up-armored vehicle, right? And situation dependent, both of those skills are very good to have, right? So if I want to be the gray man and I want to blend into an environment, what do you have to do, right? You have to assess the environment first of all and say, okay, hey, there's nobody around here that's wearing a baseball hat, right? So maybe I should take that off. There's nobody around here that's, you know, wearing a short sleeve shirt. Maybe I should, you know, put something on. There's all kinds of stuff like that that you have to look at. That way you can blend in. That way you don't stand out. And when you blend in, you can kind of vanish in the crowd. That way if somebody just scans over the crowd, they won't know that it's you. Another thing you can do is you can be high vis. You can be overt, right? Some situations when you're walking, let's say you're walking with your family, right? And let's say somebody is, I don't know, you think he may be following you, or you think that this person may be wanting to do you harm. You could be overt. You can turn around, you can let it look at it and be like, hey, what's up, bro? Usually just a what's up, bro, that'll get their head turning and they'll be like, oh shit, okay. And they'll kind of walk off, all right? Or you can kind of just stare at them. You can play that staring game, right? That staring game works pretty good because more than likely the first dude that breaks eye contact, he's the dude that's gonna walk away. Now, it can always backfire, and this guy could be like a super badass and beat the fuck out of you. Granted, right? That's kind of a chance you gotta take. But it's always there. I have I don't know if you guys know what a whoopee is, but in the military we have a poncho liner. It's a really super soft blanket pretty much, and we call it a whoopee. A whoopee is a children's blanket that they never want to relinquish, right? It's that blankie that the kid has that everywhere they go, they have to have their whoopee. In the military, when I was in, that was our whoopee, right? Everybody called it a whoopee, and you took it with you wherever you went. So I have a jacket, like a zip-up jacket that's made out of a whoopee, right? And so I wear that sometimes, and it's super comfy, it's super warm, right? Well, I have a patch on it. You know how the North Face, like their logo looks? Instead of the North Face, it just says, hey, fuck face, right? It's a funny little patch, you know? But I tell you what, that patch, I've gotten probably maybe a dozen people. They'll look at that patch, they'll look at me, and they'll look at that patch, and they'll just start laughing, and they'll be like, nice patch, man. And what that does is that breaks the ice. It almost makes camaraderie, right? Because they're trying to interact with you, and they're not doing it in a bad way. They're interacting with you in a good way. So then I laugh about it, and I'm like, oh yeah, it's funny, and we banter back and forth. And what's that do? That breaks up the monotony. That makes it so if maybe this dude 30 seconds ago, he was looking at me like, you know what, I think I might take that dude's wallet. And then he sees that, and instinctively he just starts laughing. And then all of a sudden, he doesn't want to do that anymore. I was reading a book one time, and I can't remember the name of the book, but this guy was on a subway, I believe it was in New York, and he was kind of looking down, and across from him was a man, woman, and the woman was holding a child. The man and the woman both looked kind of angry, and the guy looked really, really pissed off. And when he looked up, they locked eyes. And if you know like about like the animal world and all that shit, like if you lock eyes with a predator, they're gonna come get you and stuff. Well, this guy said they locked eyes for a second, and this guy looked at him and he kind of tilted his head a little bit, like, what the fuck are you looking at? That look. So the author immediately said, hey man, your baby's really cute. How old is he? And right there, the guy, went from kind of staring at him to moving his head. He's like, oh, 9 months old or 1 year old or whatever it was. But that right there, he de-escalated the situation, and he was situationally aware that this guy was pissed. He was looking at him like he was going to whoop his ass, and all he did was de-escalate it. And it's something simple as that, by asking somebody about their child. Super easy, something anybody can do. And in this day and age of everybody hating everybody else, it's something that I highly recommend that everybody looks into. We don't have to always get in a fight with somebody. You can always de-escalate, and you can always make a new friend. Okay, so you tried de-escalating the situation. That shit didn't work. Dude's still pissed. Dude still wants to whoop your ass. What do you have to do? Well, more than likely you got to be ready, right? Ready for what? I don't know, because the way I've always been taught, the way I kind of live my life is, if they amp it up to something else and you have no choice in the matter, you have to amp it up to that level as well, right? Another adage that we always said in the military: speed, surprise, and violence of action, right? So if you can catch that guy by surprise and you can be more violent than he is, you're more than likely going to win that confrontation. Okay? But if you don't have the skills and the mindset to back that up, then you probably don't want to do it. Okay? In any situation where you're going to get robbed or mugged or anything like that, it's always better to give up your wallet than it is to take a bullet. It's very, very simple. I would much rather give up my wallet and cancel my credit cards than I would getting into a fist fight, possibly dying, possibly be getting my bones broke, possibly going to the ER, all that stuff. It's not worth it. It's just a wallet, it's just credit cards. You call your bank, they're going to reverse any charges the guy made anyway. Okay? And I know there's this huge ego involved, and dude's like, oh, I'm going to let nobody take my wallet. Well, dude, set your ego aside. Because you know what? There's dudes out there right now that will kill you that quick, and they don't care. They don't care how badass you are. They don't care how much multicam or 511 you have on. They don't care. They would much rather kill you and take your wallet and take that $20 out of your wallet than they would anything else. So if you give up your wallet right away, here you go, dude. You know what? Go ahead. Then it's over. That's it. No harm, no foul, right? But if you have to be violent, and it comes to that, and you have no other choice, it's your life or theirs, it's your children's life or theirs, it's your wife's life, it's your husband's life, whatever. If you have to be violent, then be violent. And that's it. If you have to go up to that notch, then you go up to that notch and you raise it another one. Because you know what? I would much rather go home, maybe possibly go to jail for a night and have to defend myself in court and say, hey, this guy pulled out a knife, he held to my son's throat, and then I beat the living fuck out of him. I would much rather have to say that in court of law than have my son die, have me die, have my wife die, anybody, right? So you have to, again, the mindset. You have to ask yourself these hard questions. What happens if I get mugged? What happens if we're at a stoplight and that dude jumps out and bashes in my window? What happens in all these situations? You're playing those mental movies in your head. And it all goes back to all that, the mindset. What are you going to do? And at the end of the day, you still have to ask yourself, are you going to be an asset or are you going to be a liability?